the consensus 101 in the NFL draft. But is he going to be the 101 in your Superflex leagues? Cam Ward has got all the tools, but is he going to put it together to be an NFL quarterback? I'm John McKenney to break down this year's quarterback class. We'll start with Cam Ward, 6'2", 223 pounds, strong arm, mobile. Do you think Cam Ward could be that fantasy superstar?
There's certainly some upside. There's some interesting upside with him, and there's some strengths. I still, though, have quite a lot of questions about him, and I'm not totally sure on his value, especially considering how deep running back is this year, and especially when you consider him against previous 101s and that sort of quarterback that you'd be looking at. So, yeah, kind of a mixed prospect for me, really. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think, we can start with the positive. Like, the arm talent is real, like very strong arm, but it's, to me, arm talent's not just about, how far and how hard you can throw it. It's about, can you manipulate your arm to release different angles, make different throws, and he ticks the box there. I think he's very creative as a thrower. He manipulates his body to get the ball out with defenders in his face, to throw around people. I think he throws with good timing, good anticipation. The body is impressive. He's kind of, you'd like him an inch or two taller, but he's pretty close to prototypical size. I think there's plenty to like from that side. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, when I watched him again, I thought quick release. At times he's a bit of an arm thrower, but I think that can be easily developed. I thought he was very good, like slant thrower, and the routes that I saw him throw best for me were when he could really sort of gun a throw in there. I thought he struggled more when it was sort of a touch pass or kind of the thing that I kept picking up on the tape, which hopefully will be less of an issue for him in the NFL, because as I think we say every year when we do this with these guys is, we want them to be good because we want as many good QBs in the NFL as possible. So, but he was really bad at throwing screens. I thought that just all the time, the accuracy on the screens he led to his guys getting lit up a couple of times. He'd turn what you would think would be a sort of easy 2 or 3 yard gain into a loss at times because he just would throw behind guys or throw in funny places or too hard so that was one thing, just a weird thing that kind of sort of troubled me, really. He obviously is a very good athlete, and he definitely is going to give you rushing upside. How productive he is, I don't know, but there's something there. I didn't think the O-line was amazing, Miami, and as you can see, I just see you put his numbers up there, so it's not like there was incredible rushing numbers there, but I think he was more the thing I kept on thinking was he just reminded me of Caleb Williams. I don't think he had the special traits that Caleb had. I don't think I saw the number of wow plays that I had from Caleb that made him my 101 last year, but he was a similar kind of player. Like, a lot of that athleticism is still being used to pass rather than to tuck it and run. But to me, he just comes across as a lesser version of Caleb, and I think that's my big fear for him going forward. Is I think we saw how Caleb struggled at times this year with that poor surrounding talent, really, especially on the line. And I think Caleb's a more talented player than Cam. So if Cam does end up going high to a team like, say, the Giants with their questionable offensive line, is it going to be looking like a mess, and is it going to do long-lasting damage that he might not be able to achieve his potential? I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting you saying about the screen piece, because I think for me, and when I was watching him, I think when he's in rhythm in the pocket as a thrower, I think his footwork is great. I think he gets lazy footwork on those screen passes, which affects the accuracy. I think his footwork gets lazy out of the pocket. Now, he's phenomenal out of the pocket in terms of the creative piece, but I do think when he doesn't set that base, it affects the kind of accuracy. and he can try and make the throw and make a defender miss in space, make the throw, but actually it doesn't get there because he's not set his feet and not gone through a correct throw.
Yeah, I think he's a strong thrower rather than a talented thrower. In
Yeah,
that, I think he can really gun a ball in there. It's not an arm strength question. I think it's being able to take all the information and put that into a throw that means that he's throwing a catchable ball in the right place. So it is an accuracy thing, maybe, but I think it's a bit more than that. And that
yeah, and
kind
I
of where
think,
I'll cushion it.
and that comes back to my biggest issue with him. You can see it on the screen here. Is this kind of poise under pressure, this sack avoidance, like you know, he had a 20% pressure to sack rate. That's like Justin Fields level sack rate,
Mm.
and that's just not sustainable in the NFL. I think if he is going to be a success, he's going to need, a really creative, inventive offensive coordinator that is almost going to be able to shackle him and sort of, teach him to learn and understand pressure packages, understand where his check down, where his out ball is, and kind of almost ease him into the NFL. I think if he is thrown in at the deep end and sort of said, sink or swim, I think it's going to end in a sink. So yeah, I think there's plenty of talent there. There's enough to like. It's funny you saying about the athleticism behind the line of scrimmage. I likened him a bit to Zach Wilson in that
Right, yeah.
I think he leaves the pocket too quickly. I think he drifts a bit out of the pocket, and like Zach Wilson, he was fantastic moving around behind the line of scrimmage, but he didn't run enough. And I would like to see Cam Ward. Sometimes plays just break down, and you just got to tuck it and run. And I think he doesn't do that enough out of the pocket. I think he's always looking to find space to be able to push the ball downfield, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But sometimes in the NFL, the worst thing you can do is try to elongate a play, and sometimes you just need to tuck it and say, "This one's over. Let's move on." So, lot to like. Certainly not a polished prospect. Certainly not the 101 that we would expect in previous years. Um, but there is enough there definitely to kind of have me tantalizing and have me intrigued. I think it's going to be cost dependent because I don't think I'm going to be taking him ahead of some of these running backs and maybe even some of these wide receivers when it comes to superflex drafts.
Yeah, and I think it will matter, especially in fantasy drafts coming up. I think it will matter what the structure of your team looks like. If you're a team that had some injuries but has a QB1, he's probably worth a guy taking a punt on because the upside could be that he could be, because he's such a streaky player. You're absolutely right that I feel like you can have 10 plays of him looking absolutely elite, and then a couple of things break down, and then suddenly it goes downhill very quickly. And it seems to take a while to get out of that funk kind of thing. So I think he's a lot of upside, but I could also see him, it's almost like he could. I worry he's more like Bryce Young than CJ Stroud, in
Yeah,
that CJ Stroud was able to come in without a lot of talent and a fairly well coordinated offense that year. He was able to deal with and be a productive fantasy player that year. Whereas Bryce Young, it was too much. He needed some time to go away, learn, and come back. I think partly it was he got better, but also I think the Panthers got better in knowing what to ask from him. And I
yeah.
think that's it with Cam Ward. I think it could take time. I mean, I would. It wouldn't shock me if we were dealing with something almost a bit worse than what we've had with Caleb this year. That it might be a guy that this time next year you're looking to try and buy a little bit low on because there's a chance he could buy back if he gets in a better situation, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's rare that we're talking about QB1 and we're so paranoid about, situation, landing spot, coach, offensive line, weapons. But I think, as you said, Dan Jeremiah always says, "Is he a truck? Is he a trailer?" And I think sadly Cam Ward is going to be kept out as a trailer. But that is it for Cam Ward. Remember, we are reviewing every single player you need to know for the fantasy relevant players in your dynasty leagues. Hit the subscribe button and stick around because there'll be another player. Every single quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, you need to know we are reviewing.